or good afternoon, Mr. Renatson, everyone. Board Marcus Myers.
Raven Heath, classification. Melissa Joshua, record.
Well, thanks for waiting on us today. We've had a long day, so we'll just jump right in. We have Mr. Andrew. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
My name is Andrew DeBerry, 631-838.
Right, and let me recognize your family who's here with you, or there with you rather. You have Carmen Harrison, your mother, Jill Holland, your aunt, your brother Jimmy Harrison, and your stepdad Keith Lang. And we'll hear from those who've indicated they want to speak on your behalf. At the appropriate time, we'll call on them to do so. So, Mr. DeBerry, you are classified as a second felony offender. You're currently serving a 19-year sentence. You were sentenced in Webster Parish in March of 2015 for attempted manslaughter, illegal possession of stolen things, and aggravated flight from an officer, which is why you're here before a 5-member panel today, and any action requires a unanimous vote. You have a good time date, April 21st, 2033. Full term date is February 15th, 2034. Does all that information sound right to you? All right, your case has been assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you answer his questions?
Okay, Mr. DeBerry. How old are you?
I'm 27.
Okay, and what offender class are you? Second?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how long have you been in charge in prison on this charge?
9 years and 4 months.
Okay, is this the first time you ever served time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how you like it?
It didn't take me long to figure out that this ain't what I want for my life. Not what I want.
Okay, good to hear that. Okay, Mr. DeBerry, tell me what went on? Y'all stole a truck, and then what happened? What even made y'all want to steal that truck?
Well, I was at a party, a high school party, and I got drunk. Me and my girlfriend got into it, and I took off walking. I got in the truck, and I seen the truck had keys in it, so I started it, and I left. I was really drunk, and the next day I just continued. I just kept on going on down to my dad's house, and on the way there, that's when cops got behind me or whatever, and I just ran. The cops hit their light, and I left.
What was your other felony offense for?
That happened when I was 17 years old. That was I got probation for it. That was sexual assault in Texas.
What was it?
Sexual assault.
Okay. Did you do any time for it?
No, sir. I got probation. I was 17 years old when that happened.
How old was the girl?
15. I was 15. She was 15. I was 16, and I had a 17. I turned 17, and her mama didn't really like me too much.
Okay. Were you doing what you were supposed to do as a sex offender at that time? Were you going
No.
to your classes and stuff?
Yes, sir. I went to classes and stuff like that. I was the day I was doing everything I was supposed to, and then when I got on this charge here, and when they found out I ran and I became a fugitive or whatever, they revoked me there, and now
Who's Daniel McKinney?
that was the guy who was with me. He was a friend of mine. He
Okay.
got 5 years probation.
5 years probation. Okay. When the cops stopped the truck, you ran and he stayed there?
No, sir, since I was driving, he was just a passenger with me, but he took off running too.
He also took off running? Okay. Um. What could have happened during this chase? Tell me, what effects this crime could have had on the public?
It could have turned out real bad, and I thank God every day that nobody got hurt, but it could have been real bad. I could have hurt somebody or ended up, with a life sentence. It it could have turned out bad for a lot of people.
Yeah, I see you've taken, living in balance, thinking for a change. Spiritual growth, cage your rage. And you took your pre-release 1 and 2.
Yes,
You took any other classes?
I'm in victims impact right now, and I'm in living in balance right now as well.
Okay. Yeah, he has a phase 2, 1, yeah, you're not finished with it. Okay, well. Have you done anything about you drinking?
Uh, yes, sir. I'm in living in balance now. About I did a few AANA classes, but I've never received a certificate for it because I didn't really go all the way. I, I've been in collision repair for a while now in Votech. I've been doing it for about 6 years, and I put all of my time into that. I became a tutor, so I tutored a lot of guys back there. Now every day is my job. So,
Do you think you could benefit from some alcohol treatment?
oh yes, sir, I can absolutely.
You've had, 3 write-ups, which is good. Let's see when they occurred. Uh, 218 was your last one. That was for disobedience. And then you had a fight way back in 15. So 3 write-ups, that's good for 9 years. Where you gonna live? Where you gonna work?
I'm gonna live in Texas with my mom and my stepdad. I got a concrete job lined up, but I plan on working at a body shop. I can. I'm pretty good at it and been doing it for a few years now, so I plan on that. But if I can get out, I'll work at a concrete job at first.
Okay, has anything been done to start your, interstate compact? Have you looked into that at all?
Yes, sir. They took the money out and everything already. They got it rolling.
Okay, so have y'all heard from them, ma'am? From the Texas Interstate? Warden, what is she saying, Warden? I couldn't hear her.
Come on.
Oh, okay. I did hear from a lady, she called me and she asked me a few questions about if it was okay for Drew to come and live with me and stuff like that, but I'm not sure if it was just a pre-parole
I
board.
just wanted to make sure that the process was underway. Okay, because that can take up to 90 days. Thank you. The victim, Bobby Miller, whose truck y'all stole, he's opposed. We didn't get any comment back on the manslaughter, attempted manslaughter. Let's see. Warden, what can you tell us about him? Does he belong to any club? Does he do any community service work around the prison?
He does, Mr. Freeman. Yeah. And if you can tell, if he's as scared of coming back to prison as he is of you guys today, then I don't think he'll ever come back because he's a nervous wreck over it.
But that's high compliment. I want to tell you, Mr. DeBerry. I don't believe I've ever heard Warden Marks say that. No,
No,
Yeah.
Mr. Freeman, he is a tutor in our collision repair school, and he does a good job with that. As you mentioned, only 3 write-ups in all these years, which, for a young kid coming in that's usually fighting the system, that's kind of unusual.
yeah, he's
They usually have a little,
DeBerry, 18 when you got there.
Yes, sir.
they usually have a hard time adjusting, and he's had a couple little hiccups, but not too bad. And as again, the last one in 2018, 5 years ago, which was minimal report. He's a Strive member, which is my honor program, as you know, which I'm proud of. He has forklift certifications, several of those. And as we mentioned earlier, he is currently enrolled in Living in Balance, and he's currently enrolled in Victim Impact, which we feel like that he does need
Correct.
both of those. So, that would be, he's done a good job. I think he was a young kid that made a foolish mistake. I think he's learned from it, and I'd like to believe that he wouldn't do it again. And I also want to mention one thing. This is going to be odd. The board probably never heard me do this before either, but back a few years ago, one of our employees had brought a vehicle in to be worked on and left a pistol in the vehicle, in the console of the pistol. And Andrew was assigned to work on it. He found the weapon, loaded weapon. And, as we all know, that could have turned out horribly, but he had no ill intentions with it. He took it and turned it over as he should have. And so I have a report here on that. And so I thought that was very commendable of him. And he did the right thing there. I was proud of him then and proud of him now for that. But again, I'd like to, no matter what the board does today, I'd like to see him complete those classes because he needs them very bad in the victim impact and the alcohol program.
Okay, thank you, Warden. I have no further questions. Mr. Knox.
All right, thank you, Mr. Freeman. I don't see any other questions. So we'd like to hear from your mother. Could we hear once again from Ms. Harrison?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead. What would you like us to know?
I just wanted y'all to know, when he first came in here, he was young. But the progress I've seen from the time that he came to the time now, the accomplishments that he made, his GED, I'm very proud. And I wasn't gonna cry, I'm sorry. I feel like that maybe him having to go through this has maybe saved his life because he was not going down the right path. And I know. And I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because he has accomplished what he has accomplished and became what he is now. I don't know. I feel like he has a very good support system from home. I feel like that we have the resources to help him transition. My husband is a licensed professional counselor. He doesn't practice now, but he still has his license. He's just kind of taking a break from it. But all the friends that we hang around with, that we socialize with, are professional counselors too. So he has that resource as well as in the community if he had trouble or needed help as when he gets out. So I think that's going for him as far as support system. let's see. No, we just love him very much, and we really want him to come home and just for him to be able to start his life and from where he starts right now when he does, eventually get out I'm anxious to see his success because I really believe he's on the right path and that he's going to be a very successful person and asset to the community.
Good. Great, thank you. We appreciate you being here. Let's hear from Mr. Lane, please. Stepfather, Mr. Lane.
I just wanted to say that we are excited to provide Drew a platform for continued success. We feel that he has learned and he's grown over the past 9.5 years. And when you guys feel that it's time and that he is released and he gets that release date, he is coming into a community that I'm very familiar with. I was born and raised in that community. I've worked in the community with mental health and substance abuse for past 15 years or so. I'm not currently active in that field, but as my wife was saying, we have friends, we have people that we know in the community. He will be released into a very supportive community as far as recovery goes. We have resources from through the local churches as far as Celebrate Recovery goes. We have access to NA meetings, AA meetings. We have access to outpatient treatment if that is needed. So he is being released when the time has come. He's being released into a community that is very supportive of his continued success. And I do feel that he is ready to be given an opportunity to take the tools that he's been given over the past 9.5 years. Let's see what the young man is capable of doing with the tools that he's been given.
Great, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for speaking with us. And then we have Mr. Jimmy Harris, who is Drew's brother, right?
Yes, ma'am. I got a little sheet here because I feel like I'm more nervous than my brother is.
I doubt it, but go ahead.
Yeah. But I just want to say that my eyes, when somebody comes to prison, they can spend their time one of two ways, and that's one, they can sit around and fight the system until their time is up, or they can use the resources that they have provided to grow into someone who can live a successful life out of the prison. And I believe my brother chose this second option. He started with his GED, and then 9.5 years later, he's a tutor in the VOTEC. And I think he's built characteristics that he didn't have before he was sentenced. And some of these characteristics, off the top of my head, is just determination, honesty, and trustworthiness. And I feel like he displayed all these characteristics when he turned that gun in. It was a fully loaded gun, and I really feel that shows that he has these characteristics. And I know Drew's not perfect, but he is determined to change his life for good. That's all I got.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All right. Drew, you mentioned to Mr. Freeman, it didn't take you very long to figure out prison didn't what you wanted, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you want?
I want to be able to, I want to get out and have a positive life, give back. And I don't want to be remembered as a criminal. I want to be remembered as something, like loving and caring. And I want to be able to have a wife and kids and settle down, just have a life, just build a life. That's really.
Okay, very good. Anything else you want to tell us before we vote?
Oh, ma'am.
All right, I think we're prepared to vote, Mr. Freeman.
Okay, Andrew, it's been a pleasure interviewing you this morning. Like I said, I've heard comments from the warden, which are very reassuring to me. I agree with him. You need to finish those classes. So my vote today is going to be grant conditional of completing the classes that you are enrolled in. And upon release, I want you to get evaluated. I think your stepfather and mother can set that up. I want you to follow any recommended treatment that they give you. And also 90 days after you release and you get settled into Texas, I would hope y'all would set him up and let him speak to at-risk youth. Let him speak to some of these other people that's having drug problems, alcohol problems, or any kind of problem. Because it'll be great coming from you. You're still a young person, and I think that would be beneficial. That's my vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Jackson?
Well, Mr. DeBerry, I think you learned a lot. You've grown up in prison, and you used your time productively. You were very young when this happened, very immature, but you've accomplished a lot. There are positive remarks about the order. And so my vote today, likewise, would be to grant on completion of living in balance and victim awareness.
Mr. Roche?
Mr. DeBerry,
Sir,
you were 17, 18 years old, and you attempted to murder a state police officer. That's a very serious crime. Based upon the nature of the crime, based upon the DA's office opposing your early release, and based upon law enforcement opposition, I deny your request.
Mr. Maribel?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. DeBerry, you gave an excellent interview today. Grown up in prison, you're mature, you have excellent support. My vote likewise would be to grant conditionally upon completion of living in balance and victim awareness with the same conditions as outlined by Mr. Freeman. Good luck to you.
Right, thank you. Mr. DeBerry, my vote today, I do agree. My vote today is based solely on what the warden said about you. I have the same distaste for the crime as Mr. Roche has mentioned. But I think your how you handle the episode and your job within the prison demonstrates that you're capable of making good decisions. You have a good support system, and frankly, you're going out of state. You're not going to stay in Louisiana. So my vote today would be to grant conditionally, as has been stated, to the Texas plan or the out-of-state plan. In your case, Mr. DeBerry, it takes a unanimous vote. So you've received 4 favorable votes, but you've received 1 vote that isn't favorable to your request for parole. So today, your parole's been denied, sir.
Dude, ooh, I gotta tell you, I'm surprised that Mr. O'Shea said no. Man, maybe I'll be surprising a lot of you, but I thought he should have gotten out. There is one thing, and I did double check with the information that Richard had. Thank you for sharing it. I mean, yes, she was 15 and he had just, I guess, turned 17. Now the question is, in my opinion, on that is whether or not it was like the way he said it, sexual assault sounded like that versus more like a Texas law thing where he had reached the age above where there was an age difference. I mean, he blamed it on the mother. He said the mom didn't like me. Now if you knowing that the full story on that could influence my decision here, but they gave him a 10-year suspended sentence for that. Another thing that it seems that he was not honest about at this hearing. In one of the articles, it says that he was wanted in Texas for not registering, and I'm pretty sure here he said that he was following all of those requirements. But where I get stuck up on the most is when they call it attempted first-degree murder of a police officer. He didn't have a gun. He didn't have a knife. He didn't. Yes, he was in a car, which was a weapon. But what happened is that they laid down spikes. He stole an F-350, a Ford F, a big truck. They laid down spikes. He's 18 years old. He's this little, and he went to go around the spikes and nearly hit a police officer. They say that he came within a foot of hitting the police officer. And it's just not the same thing as someone who shoots at a police officer or intentionally. I don't think this kid had ever dreamt of intentionally hurting the police officer. He just wanted to get out. We actually covered a case where someone was charged with 5 counts of first-degree attempted murder on police officers because 5 undercover cops ran to his car and he drove right at them. And I was like, are you kidding me? Really? You're going to get someone fought? Like, it's not the same thing, but it is according to the law. Now, he took a plea deal, and I think the sentence he got was good. I think that they needed to teach this kid a lesson, but to hold him in there longer, I actually have a problem with that. I don't agree with Mr. O'Shea, and I know some of you may be shocked, but can you imagine being this kid and getting sent to Louisiana prison? He's like 5'5", 140 pounds. It says he's just like, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I would be terrified. You gotta figure he's been punished enough. It's interesting. They were looking for him for 36 hours, and it's 32 hours. And it finally ended after they decided to look at you would think like they're like, so he was on the run for 32 hours, and his passenger was taken into custody after they caught him after he jumped out of the car. So the chase began Wednesday morning when the state police trooper tried to pull over the vehicle on I-20. The two allegedly kept driving past Camp Minden until Highway 80 near Syrup Mill Road, and they parked on some private property, jumped out, and ran into the woods. Louisiana State Police helicopter landed for the day, and law enforcement seemed to be on the verge of calling it a day in the search effort when they found the wanted fugitive in an interview with Channel 12, they spoke to the property owner who helped in the capture. Dale showed us how the capture of the wanted fugitive played out inside his camper trailer in the back of the property. I don't know why it's like written or reading so poorly right now. And the law officer said, "Don't move." And he was right under there, recalled Chadwick as he pointed under the table. And so ended a 32-hour search that all began shortly before 9 a.m. Wednesday morning with the state police helicopter, bloodhounds, an army of law enforcement from Bossier, Webster Parish, pointing to different spots on his property. Chadwick said the driver hit the dirt pile, almost hit the trailer, almost hit the septic tank, right? I love this. Almost hit the septic tank right yonder and went in the ditch, missed the garden, and he came up to stop here. If it doesn't get any more Louisiana than that, right? My accent was awful, but I'm sure you can imagine it. DeBerry ran into the woods by late this Thursday afternoon. They called in a line search involving 21 officers who swept through the 20 acres of land where they thought they had already covered, but nothing was found. Officers made a final check of the structures, and that's when they noticed that the camper in the backyard was now locked. So it was open. Now it was locked. The big mistake of locking it, huh? So he asked the homeowner to come and unlock it. They unlocked the trailer, and there he was, curled up in a ball under the table. He didn't resist or nothing, said Chadwick. You'd think you could have found maybe a better hiding spot in that trailer. Now under arrest, DeBerry also faces charges, attempted first degree, accused of trying to run over a state trooper during Wednesday's chase. I don't know, Mr. O'Shea. I don't know. I just don't. It's just different. There's like malicious intent, and there's just being an idiot. And I'm saying he should have gotten the sentence, but at this point, not to get the parole? When described it to me now said, I'm either going to have to jump on the hood. This is the police officer. When he described it to me, he said, I'm either going to have to jump on the hood and or roll or just get out of the way. He came with probably less than a foot or two of hitting him, said the state spokesman. According to Chadwick, the young fugitive told him that he'd spent the entire night and all of Thursday in the camper. That may help explain the way why he looked like he was in such good shape. So they're looking for him for 33 hours, Louisiana, with all these resources, and he's literally like 10 feet from where he crashed inside of where else? A trailer, I don't think Louisiana gets Cop of the Year for that one. Here's where it talks about the, you can see here, he is wanted in Grayson, Texas for failing to register. You see, this is where it says that he failed to register. Isn't it funny? Mr. Knotts is like, I'm going to vote yes, you're going to Texas. You're leaving Louisiana, so okay, we don't care, which is true. They love when you leave. He's being charged with illegal possession of stolen things, aggravated flight, and attempted first degree of an officer. Troopers say DeBerry tried to avoid the spike strips stretched across the highway and nearly hit an officer. You would never get a conviction on first degree. That's intent. It's like, come on. So instead of hitting the spike strips and disabling his tires, he just went straight for the trooper. Police said the trooper barely made it out. It was less than a foot. Everybody is getting home safe except him. Unfortunately, he's going to jail. Again, can you imagine being that kid in Webster Parish Jail? I wonder if... Anyways. Then he appealed the sentence for different reasons, but basically they said here that this is what he was charged. This is what he took a plea deal, right? He didn't go to trial. So he was sentenced, but they give 19 and a half years of hard labor. So attempted manslaughter, right? That's what now he plead down to. 5 years of hard labor for possession of stolen things, 1.5 years of hard for aggravated flight from an officer. The sentence were ordered to run concurrently to one another. DeBerry appeals alleging that 19 and a half years labor sentence is excessive for the following reasons. DeBerry's convictions and sentences are affirmed. So here's again, they just go by the facts, which they just don't. They don't go over any additional details. During the chase, he drove a stolen vehicle squarely in the direction of a state trooper, putting Trooper Parton in great fear and danger for his life. Berry agreed with the facts as presented by the state, and the trial court accepted his guilty plea. Subsequently, remember, this is before they had cameras on. It could be they had a dash cam, but subsequently, DeBerry's sentencing hearing was conducted. The trial court noted that in Texas, he had a significant juvenile record, had been convicted of a sexual assault as an adult. I don't know why I was having a hard time saying that. And had several other charges pending, including burglary of an habitation. The trial court discussed DeBerry's social, economic, and work history. The defendant, again, and I think this is a big difference on whether it was really a mom that was upset that he was dating his daughter, which I don't blame her, or if like he actually did, I think that's a big difference. it goes into the character of the person. The defendant claimed to suffer a substance abuse problem. The trial court specifically noted considering his youthfulness and applicable in sentencing. The trial court explained that the defendant had stolen the vehicle used, which was the F-350 truck. I love that truck. From a man in Oklahoma, and during the pursuit, he dangerously was weaving in and out of traffic. DeBerry's criminal history, the significant benefit he received by pleading guilty, and the fact that his actions needlessly endangered human life. The trial court sentenced him for the following 19 and a half years. And I'm cool with this 19 and a half year sentence. I am. But I think he should have gotten parole, man. In response, DeBerry filed a motion to reconsider his sentences, arguing 19 and a half years. What about that? An employee left a loaded gun in a truck. I wonder what type of. I wonder how he was disciplined. I mean, can you imagine? Like, how can you get to the point where you could do that? You have inmates cleaning your car. I mean, they have such strict. You would assume they have incredibly strict rules about how those things are handled in prisons. I didn't think it was such a big deal that they're like, wow, it's great. It's the warden should say that and speak out the way it was, but really I didn't think it was like, oh, let's give him all a pat on the back. I mean, if he did anything with that gun, you're just proving that you belong in prison for the rest of your life. Whatever. Manslaughter was not actually no one. See, they say in the appeal, no one was actually injured in his age. The fact that these type of high-speed chases are commonly shown on television, he did not comprehend the deadly nature of his actions. And I think at the age of 18, it's you do the dumbest things at 18. Oh, and actually, he was only 17 at the time. Wow, okay. We disagree, they say. And they explain why. I have a friend who, and it's a sad case. So this happens in the early 2000s, and it was like an 85 Pontiac Firebird, one of those years. It was the T-top, it was the big V8s, but I mean, they're not really fast, but they're like loud and a lot of torque. And anyways, he was a good kid. He was 18. He had just turned 18. He was a good kid. And he was completely sober and didn't drink. Like, he didn't do anything. But he was with 3 guys. And it wasn't me. These were my brother's friends. So, and they were all like on a lot of the hard stuff. And they were in the back of the car. And I guess there was one in the front car. So maybe there were 4 guys but anyways, they were egging him on, telling him to drive fast. It was like at night, in an empty road, and all of a sudden the sirens light up behind them, and he could have just pulled over. He didn't, but they said, go, go, go. And so he went to drive, and it was like a country road. There's no other cars. There's nothing there. He made it like, I don't know, half a mile before he wrapped his car around a telephone pole. And so it ended pretty quickly. Everyone went to jail. I remember my father had gotten the phone call and actually bailed them all out. But he was the only one that was prosecuted. They did not prosecute everyone else because he was the only one that was 18. Everyone else was 17. And he got a public defender who apparently was not very good. He thought that he would just get probation or something. Again, he had no record. He was sober. He was actually like, a good kid that was working and the whole thing. And the judge gave him a pretty big sentence. He went to prison, and he's never spoken about his time in prison. I've never heard him say one word about it. I've never asked, but it just goes to show, I mean, in his case, it was 100% peer pressure. and the judge didn't care. But you tell me, how do you feel about this case? I think parole was okay, was the right move. I know I may surprise you, but I'm surprised about this one. With that, I'll let you go.
All right, and Mr. Johnson, good afternoon, sir. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number for the record, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Durrell Johnson, DOC number 4399966.
Yes, sir. It's Mr. Johnson. Let me acknowledge the folks who joined us today. On Zoom, we have the Parole Project, Mr. Myers. We have your Aunt Lydia Stewart. We have your Uncle Donald Stewart, Mary Johnson, your son Derell Johnson Jr., and Leslie Favis, your child's mother. Those who've indicated they want to speak on your behalf, we'll let them do so at the appropriate time. We also have a representative from the DA's office in Jefferson Parish, Mr. Randy Meyer, who will be speaking as well. First, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to read some information into the record. You are, Mr. Johnson, classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving, a 40-year sentence. You were sentenced in May of 2001 in Jefferson Parish for armed robbery and attempted first-degree murder. You received a 40-year sentence on each of those. Those sentences are running concurrently, so it is a total of 40 years. Parole eligibility date was June 8th of this year, and the good time date is December 2nd, 2033. Does that sound right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Your case has been assigned to Mrs. Jackson. Would you answer her questions?
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. How are you doing today? Can you
Great,
hear me?
ma'am. All right. Yes, ma'am. I'm grateful. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Mr. Johnson, you are 45 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been incarcerated on this charge?
23 years.
So you were 22 when you committed this offense?
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Well, tell us a little bit about the 22-year-old Mr. Johnson. How much education had you had? Go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Listen.
I said, tell me who you were at age 22.
The 22-year-old that I reflect back on didn't have any direction and didn't know his place in life. And I was a new father. My son.
Wait. I want specifics. How far had you gone in school?
Oh, I dropped out of 8th grade.
And how does one drop out in the 8th grade?
And I gave up on school. Didn't really care about life no more.
And why was that? Why was that?
Because a lot of things was happening in my life, as far as with my environment that I was in. My brother had got killed, so I just took a different approach, a different direction.
How did your brother get killed?
He got shot.
Okay, so he was murdered.
Yes, ma'am.
And how old were you when that happened?
I think I was 17.
And were you still in school at the time your brother got shot? Apparently not, if you dropped off at 8th grade.
No, ma'am.
So why did you drop out in the 8th grade?
Maybe because I felt like school was I was really troublesome by the whole environment and what happened with my brother during that time. Because eventually I just decided that, well, I'm gonna just quit school, probably find a job and see what happens.
Did you find a job?
Yeah, I had temporary jobs I started doing. While I'm getting odd jobs, cutting grass, helping my father, and different things like that. But I really didn't have a steady job.
What about substance abuse issues?
No, I never had any substance abuse issues.
You never used illegal drugs?
No, I mean, I smoked marijuana coming up, like as a youth, but I didn't have really a problem with drugs at all.
Marijuana is a drug.
Yes, ma'am, I know, but I mean, I wasn't doing it like to where I was addicted. Well, for the most part, like recreational purposes with friends or whatever.
How often? How often?
Depend like maybe twice a week, I would say, perhaps.
What about alcohol? Drink?
No, man, a few beers, but it wasn't no hard liquor, nothing like that.
Okay, well. Beer is alcohol, and there are a lot of alcoholics who drink nothing but beer. So tell me about your alcohol use.
Alcohol use, like I say, it was beer. Basically, I didn't have a problem with alcohol like that to where I needed it or to get drunk. It was just like maybe a coping mechanism for whatever purposes when, you know, gatherings with friends or whatever.
Well, tell us what happened, on October 30th of 2000.
October 30th, I was having financial issues with, you know, paying bills, and
Back up, how old were you?
it's 22.
And where were you living?
I was living in an apartment on Independence in Metairie.
Okay, and how were you paying rent?
Well, I had a job at Denny's at the time. I was a short order cook.
Okay. All right, so tell us
And,
what, 30th.
on October 30th, like I said, I was going into financial troubles and I was struggling to pay the bills, and I had a negative influence that, you know, I was affiliated with, a cousin of mine, and he, you know, someone had me adopt what he was doing, and I was already doing, you know, criminal mentality things such as, you know, running the streets. So I decided to go and rob a convenience store to try to help pay the bills, and didn't come up with much, but
What happened,
afterward,
what happened during the robbery? What'd you do during the robbery?
I ran into the store, pointed a gun, and demanded the money, got the money, ran out and left.
And were you wearing a mask?
Yes, ma'am, I was wearing a mask.
How much money did you get?
Probably like $22, something like that.
And then what happened after you left the store?
After I left the store, went home and was feeling guilty, but then still kind of like, well, I need some more money to pay the bills because this is not enough considering, you know, I still have other bills to pay. So I was just contemplating on what to do next.
And what did you do next?
Well, another day, for Halloween, decided to rob another store.
And what'd you do? Tell us what happened.
This particular time, I was the driver of the car, and my accomplice went in. Demanded the money, we get the money, and we leave again, and went back home, and that was it.
And so you never went into the store the second time?
No, I never went in the store. I was the driver at the time of the second robbery.
How much money did you get?
Probably the same, somewhere around the same amount.
Well, when did you get into this pursuit with the officer? Tell us about that.
The pursuit with the officer came, a month later, a few weeks, I was actually going to sell a gun because I was feeling guilty about the whole entire ordeal, you know, committing crimes. That really wasn't my thing doing that, but I tried to go sell a gun that I used to participate in a robbery, and in the midst of doing that, I got stopped by the police and ended up in a high-speed chase.
Why do you think they, were trying to stop?
Well, now that I think about it, it was probably because of affiliation with a robbery, suspect for robbery.
Okay, and you were the driver? Who was driving the vehicle?
My stepmother was driving the vehicle.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
My stepmother was driving the vehicle at the time.
All right, and what did you do?
I was staying in the passenger seat.
And how did you end up with an attempted murder charge?
Well, as we got to the end of the high-speed chase, we got blocked off. I jumped out the car and fired a shot and ran from the police, jumped the fence and tried to get away.
What kind of weapon did you have?
12 gauge pump.
And you struck the officer's vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long after that were you apprehended?
I was apprehended like 10 minutes later.
So let's talk about the Derell Johnson today. What if anything is different about you today than 22 years ago?
There's a lot that has changed within my life because now I'm able to make decisions that are sound, that's reasonable and rational. In other words, what I mean is to understand the effects of my actions before I do them, and understand and know the consequences. What can I lose? What is that a gain? Does the good outweigh the risk that I have to, or should I say the bad outweigh the risk that I'm taking? You know, and now I'm looking back at where I'm at now, that really wasn't even worth doing. It was really, you know, senseless, in other words. So now I understand that I have a better way to do it because I'm equipped with the tools to do it, you know, to help me. And that was my purpose for striving to do this because I never really wanted to live that type of life at that time to get me in here.
Kind of, what's your job at the prison?
I work in the culinary department in the kitchen,
How long have you had that job?
like 17 years.
Okay, and what do you do? You either cook, baker, dishwasher?
Yeah.
What do you do in the culinary area?
I'm a diet cook, but I also help all around. Wherever help is needed, I help everyone.
I noticed that you have gotten some vocational education. You received a welding certification from Capital Area Vocational Education Program.
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you get that?
I received that in 2012.
You never used that on the job at while incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am. I also started after I graduated, I was a tutor for a significant period of time until it had made a transition. And I decided to go to the culinary department back in the kitchen.
And you've gotten NCCER for curricula completion. I'm looking at some of the programs you took, Living in Balance. What did you get out of Living in Balance? Particularly since you don't think you had a substance abuse issue, what benefit did you get out of Living in Balance?
The benefit I received out of living in balance is I knew I had a problem. I knew that my actual life at the time was destructive. And living in balance has actually taught me that, you know, to get on track, these are some of the habits, the negative habits you have to get rid of. And these are the new things and the positive things you have to adopt in order to live in balance, to have a successful life, to overcome the obstacles and the things in which you was once addicted to.
Do you have children?
Yes, ma'am, I have a son.
And how old is your son?
He's 23.
I'm the same age you were when you got yourself involved in this activity, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is your son?
He's in Texas right now.
Okay. Do you have any communication with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh,
We talk. Yes, ma'am, we talk like every day.
what does he do?
He's offshore driller. He worked offshore contract work with a company and like he do like 14 on, 7 on, something like that.
And I see that you took Inside Out Dad and Nurturing Parenting. What caused you to take those programs and how do you think they benefited you?
It benefited me in ways now to be able to relate with my son on a father to son level, even though I've been distant from him. And we have a great relationship. And the reason I took those classes because I really wanted to be a good father at the time, but I just didn't know how. And now that I took those classes, it helps me to become a better father and to know the proper things in which to do for him and also my granddaughter.
Okay. You also took a number of faith-based programs, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I see that you got your GED in 2008.
Yes, ma'am.
We got a letter today from Adam Crosby with Ashland University.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about that. Tell us about Ashland.
That's my Ashland as well. I just received my bachelor's degree in Bachelor's of Art in Communication, and this was part of my journey and my success as far as my development, which has helped me become the person I am today. And I also took the leadership role in helping Mr. Crosby to inspire other students. And that was helpful and therapeutic for me because I had individuals to help me along the path to get to where I'm at now today. Those individuals have since gone, but I remember them and they helped be an example to me to motivate others. And I feel proud of that because even now today that I have graduated, I have other students that still, come to me for their inspiration and their assistance. And I'm honored to be a part of the university.
And it says you maintained a better than 3-point average GPA.
Yes, ma'am.
Must be very proud of that.
Ma'am.
Let's talk a little bit about your disciplinary record. You've had a total of 35 write-ups, the last one coming in 2018 for an aggravated disobedience. Tell us about that incident. What happened?
I think that was over the school.
2018.
I was dealing with yes, ma'am. That was a spoon a utensil where I was working at, was in my area, and it come up missing. And I don't know what happened to it, so went to the supervisor and told him that since it was in my name, I might as well get the write-up for it because it was in my name. And that would actually happen cause of disobedience because I wasn't able to turn the tool in because I didn't know where it was at.
Okay. And what discipline did you receive for that?
Fox 7 in a little program at the time for 30 days.
Warren, what can you tell us about Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Johnson has been here at Hunt since 2008. His disciplinary record since being here at Hunt has been minimal. Looking at his programming, looked like he started working on his rehabilitation somewhere around 2010. As you see in his record, he does have a lot of certificates. He did get his GED. He has a low title risk and 591 days of CTRP credit. So he's done just about everything that we've asked him to do as relative to programming and mentoring the young inmates coming into the facility at this time. He is a minimum level trustee here at Hunt. He does work in our kitchen. We haven't had any complaints with his work ethic or whatsoever. So feel like he's on the right track.
How long has he been a man-aid trustee?
February 20th of 2022.
Mr. Johnson, I will let you know that the officer involved in this incident specifically stated that he is unopposed to your early release and is generally supportive of your release. He believes that you really weren't trying to kill anybody, that you were young and you probably panicked, and he has no opposition to your early release. If you were to be successful today, Mr. Johnson, tell the board what your transition plan is going forward.
Well, first I plan to register with meet with my parole officer within 72 hours. And soon after, I plan to register with the local sheriff's office as a violent offender against a police officer.
Well, yeah, but you're gonna live beyond 72 hours, so then what? Need to know your long-term plan.
Yeah, well, I also plan on going to the parole project for a significant period of time to find employment. And after I find employment, help my family, my mother and father who have been supporting me, and help raise my son and my granddaughter.
Where do you plan to live long-term?
Long-term, well, when I get out, I plan on going to the parole project.
That's
So I plan
not,
on,
okay, but you don't stay there forever. So then what? I'm trying to
well,
see,
then
I'm trying to see, Mr. Johnson, if you thought through a plan. If you,
yes, ma'am.
there is consideration to what you would do with the rest of your life if and when you are successful in your quest to get out. So I'm trying to see if you thought through it. You have concrete things that
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I plan on helping my mother and father. To live with my mother and father, help them. Because they're up in age, and then I'll get my own apartment.
What kind of work do you plan to do, Mr. Johnson?
I plan to weld. In fact, I want 2 jobs. I plan on welding and probably a cooking job.
Have you made any contacts with anyone on the outside that could give you assistance in getting a welding job?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I tried to contact Harmony, but they never got back with me because I'm in prison, incarcerated at the time. But Harmony is a potential employer I would go see to try to get a welding job to start.
How old are your parents?
Well, my father is 75 and my mother is, I think, 72.
What other family support do you have besides your parents?
Well, I have a sister, I have a cousin, so I have some support that's willing to help me.
Did they know that you were appearing before the board today?
Yes, ma'am.
And did they know that they could have participated and offered us some information about the support they would offer you?
Yes, ma'am.
But they're not here. You know why they weren't?
Well, I told them I told them what time it was supposed to be for, but I guess, I don't know. They probably got tired of waiting or forgot. I really know the situation, but I know that they was informed about it and they were supportive. But I just don't know what happened.
All right, Mrs. Renaud, so that's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. We'll hear from the folks in support. First of all, Mr. Myers with the Parole Project.
Good afternoon, Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We've been working with Mr. Johnson now for what seems like for a very long time. His hearing has been moved on a couple of occasions. She started off as a client, clinic client of the LSU Parole and Reentry Clinic. And it's unfortunate that they're in between semesters now. And that's why they're not appearing here. But we're here because we've been impressed with Mr. Johnson's work ethic, his rehabilitation ethic, earning an associate and bachelor's degree from Ashland University, his welding certification from Capital Area Technical College, his NCCER core, the fact that he is, and you heard it from the warden, is a stable influence, mentoring other people in the prison. His programming includes substance abuse, anger management, living in balance, victim awareness, among others. The inside out dad and nurturing parenting, victim impact training. He has also taken. He's impressed us. We are prepared to support him on a long-term basis until he gets on fully established. Based on his age and his skills, he's an excellent candidate for our employment enhancement program, which is a team here inside of a Parole Project that does nothing but connect clients with living wage employment. And so we will do everything we can to make sure he has a viable, using those skills, and has a viable living wage job. We are prepared, I sent just again to support him for as long as it takes for him to get in a position to meet his other goals, to go home, to help his parents, and essentially to support him throughout his transition. So I would ask this board today to consider the things that he's done, the work that he has done. He's been very sincere and very straightforward in this interview. And this is the mature Derell Johnson, not the 22-year-old Derell Johnson. And I said this before, we have been impressed by his work ethic in not only his record on paper, but by the interviews we have done personally with him. And so we'd ask this board today just to grant him his parole.
Great, thank you. We'd like to hear from Mr. Johnson's uncle, Mr. Donald Stewart. You with us? Yes, Donald Stewart. All right, well, we're trying to connect with him. Is Leslie Favis here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. What would you like us to know?
First of all, good afternoon. I'm actually Derell Johnson Jr.'s mother. I just came here to be of support for Durrell, and asking to, I really don't know exactly what takes place or what I'm supposed to say, but I've had communication with him over the past years that he's been incarcerated. I do know that he is not the same person that I was with when I first met him. He has changed tremendously. I am also a convicted felon and was given a second chance. And it has turned my life around. Anyone can turn their life around. I believe he deserves a second chance. I know that he will do the right thing. He is a very loving father. He needs a chance to be able to physically connect with his son. Our son is only 23, and it would be better for his son to have his father in his life. We have a beautiful granddaughter. She would also, it would be beneficial for her to have her grandfather in her life. And I will be willing to help him in any way I can. I have 2 felonies actually, and I was able to maintain employment, turn my life around, take care of our children. I have a wonderful relationship with my kids, my granddaughter. I just want him to benefit from those things. It is not impossible for someone to change after prison. I pray that y'all will give him a second chance, because I'm not going to say he deserves it. None of us really deserve the second chance, but God blessed me with a second chance, and I believe he needs the same. And I thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for joining us today. Okay, we have Mr. Stewart. We have Mr. Stewart on the phone. Good afternoon, Mr. Stewart. Would you state your name, your relationship, and tell us what you would like us to know? Okay. Go ahead, sir. What is your relationship to Durrell?
Oh, that's my nephew.
Okay, what would you like us to know about him? What would you like us to know about Durrell?
I think started off kind of rough with his life, but I think the place he at now is a big change in his life. And from what I'm hearing and what I believe, that he should be working to come out of life. He have a grandson with him. He always talking to me, and he won't come home and help us, but we got older, and he missed his family. His son and grandson. And I believe it was all, what I say, it helped him out when he come to us. He got no teeth. They expected to leave. And I really do believe when he come out, I thought when he come out, he's going to be a successful man. He's a young guy. He's young. So he got another half of his life left. We can turn himself around. Tremendously. He's got to keep all his life and he got to do the right thing. I think he's eligible after the years. We all deserve the second thing. So on that note, I believe that he's going to make it. That's my case.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Stewart, for joining us this afternoon.
Okay. Anything from the light?
No, sir, that's it. We're gonna move on. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Now we'll hear from, Mr. Myers with the DA's office.
Good afternoon, Randy Meyer, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish. And again, Mr. Johnson shot at 4 police officers. He was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder, first-degree murder of the police officers. 3 were dismissed in his plea arrangement, and he pled guilty to 1 of those charges. And again, I think we're sending the wrong signal to our citizenry if we allow people to take shots at police officers and then give them the benefit of parole. He served 23 or 40 years, so just over half of it, just more than half of his sentence, and he was sentenced without benefit of parole, although he is eligible under the current statutes for parole. I had some real strong concerns with looking at what he's done when he's been incarcerated, but listening to his interview today, I think some of the concerns I have were answered. You know, he had programming. Most of the programming that he has taken has been some time. He had victim impact training in 2018. And he hadn't had much since he had the 100 hours. Most of the certificates that he's had of record, I think are all over pretty much 10 years ago. But after hearing about his education advancements and his welding, I did not see any of that in the record. And maybe that explains why he didn't continue with some of those programmings. And I'd like to commend him on that. I think that's an important thing for him to do. But when I look at his criminal record and what the offense was or is, you know, he had quite a bit of violence. He had resisting officers, disturbing the peace. 2 separate offenses where he was charged with resisting an officer and battery of an officer. Armed robbery, 2nd-degree battery, another 2 counts of armed robbery, and now this attempted first-degree murder. Because of the nature of the offense and the time that he has spent incarcerated, at this time, we remain opposed to his request for parole.
Great, thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson, is there a statement you'd like to make to the board?
Yes, ma'am, I would like to say that the past activities, the criminal activities in which I was involved in, I was deeply sorry for because I didn't have no understanding about life. And now I'm on a path to where I rediscover my humanity. Prison has helped me in that area because now I know myself. I know who I truly am, I know my identity, and I know how to value and sympathize and have empathy for others. And I just ask that I receive that second opportunity to prove myself and to show that I'm capable of being a productive citizen in society.
All right, sir, thank you. I think we are ready to vote. Mrs. Jackson will be voting first.
All right, Mr. Johnson, your crime spree, if you will, covered a relatively short period of time. You are officially classified as a first felony offender. You were in your very early 20s when this crime occurred. And if former officer Spindell can say that he's in favor of your release, that he doesn't hold any animosity towards you, and he doesn't even believe that it was your intention to kill anybody, that as a young, impulsive person, you reacted out of panic. You know, I'm not going to stand in his shoes and speak for him. I'm going to take him at his word. You have served your time well. You've worked hard. You've accomplished a lot. You have very positive remarks on the warden. You've done well in terms of your educational pursuits. I think you're equipped to be able to get a job and get a good job and be productive. And so my vote today would be to grant your request for early release to the Louisiana Parole Project. And so that's my vote.
Thank you, Mr. Rocha.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Johnson. Mr.
Yes, sir.
Just a second, Mr. Johnson, just a second. Mr. John Q. Public cannot go around shooting at law enforcement officers. To release you early would send a message that we condone your offenses. You deliberately shot at 4 law enforcement officers. You were charged with 4 counts of attempted first-degree murder of a police officer. The nature of that offense is a series of any offense that's committed because it's a violent act against the establishment. You fired and tried to kill and just barely missed a police officer hitting his police unit. Based on opposition from the DA's office and the present law enforcement officers in Jefferson Parish, a history of violence, my vote is to deny your request.
Mr. Rocha, Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You've got a good transition plan. You had a good interview. You've served your time well. You've been in jail for quite some time. Got good comments from the board. My vote would be to grant with the same conditions as outlined by Judge Jackson.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman.
In this case, like Mr. Roche said, you actually did point the weapon at the officer. You shot and you hit his mirrors. So it was lucky, like the officer said, that neither one of y'all killed anyone that night. And my vote is to deny.
All right, Mr. Johnson, you got a split vote today. You got two favorable, 2 not favorable. You know, it takes a unanimous vote. So today, sorry, your parole's been denied. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Well, this one is different for me because, like, I think how Pete Freeman was swayed. Pointing a shotgun and pulling a trigger at police is very different than driving your cruiser to avoid, spike strips. So I think, what else is there to say? I think it would have sent a pretty bad message. I don't have any information on this case. Richard couldn't find anything, we have some information that he applied for a commutation and was denied in 2015. But that's it. It's interesting. And again, this is because of Act 122, I believe is what Randy was referring to, which is why he's even eligible, is because he served more than 20 years on his sentence and he's above the age of 40. So he becomes automatically eligible for parole. I'm not 100%. Actually, I don't know why in some this is a 5-person board and it's parole hearings, but they're requiring let's let's jump into the next case because but also on that note, I thought what his mother said, who has 2 felonies, I thought she spoke very well. It was, I thought very on point. And what I like what she said, no one deserves a second chance. We hear it so often that he deserves a second chance. She didn't say that, but she just said, like I've proven that he can be successful with a second chance. And I really like what she had to say. It's interesting. I found myself rooting for him, but to point a shotgun, and good for the cop for saying that he doesn't hold resentment. I mean, that is special, but I think it's different. You point the weapon and you pull the trigger. It's a 12 gauge shotgun. Man, you don't need to do that. He is lucky he didn't get the wrong end of that deal. And he obviously, just by luck, didn't hit any of the police officers. But there's one last hearing, so let's cover it, and then we'll coordinate.
Okay, can you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number. Your camera's on mute. You're gonna have to ask a staff member to come unmute the microphone.
It's funny. I wonder if it's like a touch screen that he can just click the button, or
There we go. You can hear me now?
You can. Good afternoon. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Eduardo A Doubleday. My DOC number is 505449.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Doubleday, you are classified as a 5th felony offender. You are currently serving a 15-year sentence. You were sentenced initially 2019, simple burglary of an inhabited dwelling, and then were resentenced as a habitual offender related to that 15-year sentence. Then October of 2020, also, you were sentenced to 5 years for aggravated flight from an officer. Your parole eligibility date was October 22nd of this year, and your good time date is April 17, 2031. Does all that sound accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Your case this afternoon, Mr. Doubleday, has been assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you answer his questions?
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Doubleday, how old are you?
I'm 40 years old.
Okay, and how long have you been in prison this job?
Since July 3rd of 20.
Okay, so 3 years, okay? What's your educational level?
I have a GED in some college years.
All right, Mr. Doubleday, tell me about the burglary.
The burglary, I was going through a lot in my life. A lot of it stemmed from the use of drugs. I was at a very low point in my life where I was willing to do anything, to get that high. And that's when I ended up breaking into the house, because it's something that I usually don't do. My family actually comes from money and stuff like that, but once your family turns their back on you because they know you're doing wrong, you go to any length.
Okay, did you have any inside information that these people had all these valuables in their house?
No, sir. It was just kind of like a on the whim type thing. It was actually in my parents' neighborhood. It was just pretty much out of, I guess you would say, there wasn't any planning or anything involved. No.
Okay. What kind of drugs were you using?
At that time, I was shooting heroin.
Okay. What have you done about your heroin convictions? I mean, your heroin addiction?
I've actually gotten into some classes. One that's helped me a lot is LA Risk, which kind of helps me manage my triggers and to know how to identify them. So, and any type of other kind of rehabilitation classes I've tried to get into, especially with, it's kind of hard with the time that I have, because they want the people that have the less time to get into classes, get their good time and go home. So I've really been trying to strive and fight to better myself with the time that I do have.
Have you ever received any inpatient substance abuse treatment?
I have done some 28-day programs. I've gotten sanctioned to a 90-day turnaround. So yeah, earlier on in my years.
And they just never seem to help.
No, I think I would say I'm a late bloomer on that one. I've got kids now that are in high school, and I really don't want them to go down the path that I went and live the lifestyle that I did.
Okay, let's talking about your aggravated flight. But what was going through your mind? I know the cop stopped you. You didn't have a license, but you did.
I did. It was like another certain situation. COVID had just hit. Social distancing. I had just come home from Angola, so there was a lot of pressure and a lot of stuff that overwhelmed me, especially with not being able to really, have my support system in place that I relied upon to stay sober. I didn't anticipate having a fourth child on the way. So I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. I kind of freaked out a little bit. I really did. And I was already, hadn't reported, so I already knew that I was possibly gonna have a warrant out for my arrest, or I was gonna be on the run. So, careless mistake that costed me big in the long run.
I see you was in reentry court. What did you get out of reentry court? That's one of the best programs we got.
Most definitely. I actually got a lot out of the reentry program. It actually sent me into a new career in small engine repair, in which I got certifications in while I was at Angola. Definitely got a perspective on life that if I didn't change my ways, that I was going to end up like some of my mentors and lifers that were out there. And when I went home, that was my total mentality. But like I said, I don't want to keep blaming this on COVID, but I didn't know how to really respond to that type of situation. I've never been through a pandemic or anything like that. So I've had to sit here and really evaluate my emotions and how to keep them in check, because I've, over the years, I've learned that my emotions get the best of me, and then I end up making not the greatest of decisions.
Okay. Looks like you've been on supervision 3 times and you've been revoked all 3 times. What's the problem?
Like I said, early in life, the drugs was the major issue. But like I said, I'm 40 now. I have kids of my own. And I'm not gonna lie, like the other incarcerations that I've had were not really the same as the incarceration that I've had to deal this time, because I've actually been in general population. The other times I was in programs where, I think we had a little bit more safety on our side, especially being at Angola, being in a reentry program. Security always looked out for us. But this time around, I just don't see myself living the way people live in here, the way they do.
Let's look at some of the things that you've had in your life. You've had you were put in drug court. You didn't make it through drug court. Then you was in reentry court. Correct?
Correct.
And didn't make it through reentry court. I mean, what kind of assurance you can give me that you're gonna make it now? You have a terrible supervision history with some of the best programs that we have.
The only other thing that I could possibly, suggest, because of my history with supervision, I'm willing to wear an ankle monitor, and even further my support and my drug addiction with getting into an intensive outpatient that I know of two that they have in Slidell, Slidell addictive disorder and SADAC. I would rather go to actually not SADAC, it's called ACER. I'd rather go to the one that's ACER because I've dealt with in the past with like more one-on-one therapy that's actually helped me a lot.
Okay. We're looking at it, the district attorney is opposed, the sheriff is opposed. There was no comment from the judge. It switched a little bit, but I'm sure Judge Knight wouldn't be real happy with you right now. No comment from the police. Your mother, Sue Doubleday, is in favor. She'd be very supportive and would help you in any way she could. Tell me where you're gonna live, what you're gonna do. If you be successful.
My game plan, if I was to be allowed parole, is to go home to my parents' house and establish myself there for a little time until I get a place of my own. I also, I don't know if y'all ever heard of the Vivitrol shot.
Yes.
I was wanting to get on to that because they didn't offer it to me while I was in Angola, but I've looked into it and I've read into it, and it's something that I would really like to, take to like help with my addiction issue, because that's where all my problems stem from, is my addiction.
Vivitrol is a good program. The victims in your burglaries are opposed. What is gonna be your sobriety plan if you get out?
Definitely 12-step meetings all the way. Like I said, I wanted to get into the ACER program and look into the Vivitrol shot. And stick with the program because I've seen it work firsthand. It's worked for me in the past. I've gone a length of time, 2-3 years without using, as long as I've had my sponsor, my 12 steps to work on, people that are in the same situation that I can actually talk to, that can relate to me, helped out a lot.
Yeah, I see you got 3 kids, yeah, and you have 4 kids, you're telling me.
Correct. The fourth one, she lives in Mississippi.
Okay. Do you have a relationship with these children?
Yes, I do. I talk to my son, my 13-year-old, at least once a week. My 2 oldest kids that are 16 and 14, they live in Florida, and it's really hard to get in touch with them. But yeah, my daughter that I haven't even actually got to hold, I try to stay in touch with her, but me and her mother don't get along. She's already remarried and everything, so I'm really just trying to get back to my kids.
Okay, I see you, you have a high risk, a high need. It's been a while since I've seen both of those. You haven't had any write-up since you've been in prison, it says?
No, sir.
Okay. Taking turns. Okay, I have a, no further questions. I'll have a rec. Oh, one thing I do want to know that, but you stated it, there's no problem. The problem is drugs and alcohol.
Correct.
You got on arrest for drugs and alcohol. You got 5 or 6 convictions for drug alcohol. Warden, are y'all having any problems with him over there? Have you had any problems with him?
No, sir, we have not had any issues.
No, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Roshak?
Yes. Mr. Doubleday, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Were you arrested in Hank County, Mississippi on July 3rd, 2020?
Correct.
And on July 21st, 2020, you pled guilty to speeding careless driving and was given credit for time served. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That was on the 21st of July. And then 3 days later, while in St. Tammany Parish, Louisiana, you were arrested again.
On July 3rd, I was in
No, July 21st, you pled guilty in Hancock County, Mississippi.
correct.
Then on July 24th, 2020, 3 days later, you were arrested in St. Tammany Parish, Louisiana. Is that correct?
I was not arrested. I was extradited from Hancock County to St. Tammany Parish, where I then charged me with the aggravated flight.
So basically, you left straight from Hancock County, Mississippi, and was transported to Louisiana.
Correct.
And then you were billed with aggravated flight from the officers and pled guilty. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. I was under the impression that you were arrested for speeding and aggravated, but that charge had already been initiated, and you were sent back to Louisiana to face those charges.
No, sir. When I was apprehended on July 3rd, although that whole offense was on July 3rd, I was not apprehended from St. Tammany until I got extradited to St. Tammany from Hancock County.
Okay, so you had charges in Hancock County, Mississippi, and St. Tammany?
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Doubleday, you mentioned you had first-hand knowledge of the Vivitrol. Tell us where you found that knowledge.
That information was given to me while I was at Angola.
Did you participate in the STAR program at Angola?
I did not. They didn't ever actually offer it to me. By the time they actually came out with the information for the Vivitrol shot, I was basically on my way out the door.
Okay, so the way you said what you said, it was kind of like you had been administered the Vivitrol shot.
No, ma'am. I would like to, but no, ma'am, I have not firsthand.
Well, there's some education that goes along with that. So anyway, is there anything you'd like to say to us before we go?
No, I just want to thank you for your time and your patience. And that's about it.
Okay, I think we're prepared to vote. Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Doubleday, first off, so far your life has been a waste. I'm sitting here talking to you, very educated. You got a great head on your shoulders. Sounds like you come from a wonderful family who's still willing to be there. I mean, most families, I've seen families just, once they turn their back, it's over with. My thing is, before I vote to release you, I want you on that Vivitrol shot, and I want it while you're in custody in Louisiana.
Yes, sir.
So at this time, I'm gonna deny, but I'm gonna request that you be sent somewhere with the STAR program or the Vivitrol program. And if you get on that and you stay on it, then the next time you come before us, I think your outcome will be different and we'll give you a chance. I'll give you a chance.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mrs. Jackson?
All right, Mr. Doubleday, recovery is hard, particularly for heroin addiction. It takes a lot of stumbling before you can finally, overcome it. Takes a lot of setbacks. My vote is a little bit differently. I do think you need to participate in the long-term substance abuse program. So my vote would be to grant conditionally on completion of a long-term substance abuse program at DOC.
All right, thank you. Mr. Roche?
Mr. Doubleday, based on poor supervision history, law enforcement opposition, victim opposition, a high risk assessment, and a very high needs assessment, my vote is to deny your request.
And Mr. Marabella.
You know, I've been listening to you as we've been talking here, and I agree with everything every one of my colleagues have said. You know, Judge Jackson and I were both judges. I ran a drug court for 14 years. And I know how significantly supervised drug court persons are, and you couldn't complete that. The reentry program is the same thing. It's got strict supervision, more supervision than you're going to get on parole. You couldn't complete that. And I do believe it's all because of drugs. I think the Vivitrol shot is a good idea. Like Mr. Renata said, you can't just boom, get them the Vivitrol shot. It's going to take some education. It's going to take some time. You need long-term substance abuse treatment. You're high risk for substance abuse. You're high risk to recidivism, and that's because of your drug addiction. You know, you need 5 votes to get you where you're going to get, so you're not going to get there regardless of what I vote. But I do hope, I'll recommend as well, conditionally, almost very similar to what Mr. Freeman said. We all agree that you need treatment. You need some long-term treatment. There's the STAR program. There's the Steve Hall program. Those programs will help you learn more about your addiction and maybe get involved with the Vivitrol shot. Opioid addiction is the hardest thing in the world to beat. I wish you well. You're moving in the right direction. I think your head's on straight now. You just need a lot more work. So my vote would be to grant conditionally long-term substance abuse, but probably not going to be able to get that done today. Hopefully, we will recommend that you be allowed to go to a long-term facility. So good luck to you.
All right, Mr. Doubleday, I'm encouraged by the fact that you recognize now and acknowledge that you do have a serious issue. I don't think you've come to terms with it altogether. My vote, Mr. Roche and Mr. Freeman, would be to deny your parole today because of the high risk, high needs score. We can't just vote to let you, but so the outcome of today's proceeding is that your parole has been denied, but we all agree, and we will make the recommendation that you be moved to a place where you can get some long-term substance abuse treatment. Hopefully it'll be a STAR program, so you can get more information on that. Wish you well, sir. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our business there at Concordia, so we're going to adjourn. It's 3:17 p.m.
All right, good job.
You know, I don't have any documentations to share on this. I mean, Richard did provide like 10 links, but it's just like his arrest records, which is just, he keeps, you know, getting arrested. And it's, what's interesting is when I was listening to this hearing, I just kept thinking, no, he's not ready. He's not ready. He's just, but when he asked for the how it's pronounced, the Vivitrol shot, I said, oh, well, maybe he is. I think that I can remember, I think that I've only can recall 2, maybe 3 people that actually requested to be on that shot. We have seen people in his similar situation when the board suggests the shot and they refuse. They say no. And it takes a certain acceptance to be willing to go on it. If you're curious, you know, I just Google it and it blocks the effect of opioid medication, including pain relief, or the feeling that you get, that well-being feeling that you get from opioids. And it also works for alcohol. So it basically makes it so that you can't get high. You just can't if you're on it. And, I'm sure there's a lot of unknown side effects and it's complex and blah blah blah. So to ask to go on it, it's that's pretty intense. I think it doesn't sound so intense. Well, you want to be in prison, but again, we haven't seen a lot of people ask to go on to it. To think he has a 15-year sentence, they got him on the habitual. They just basically said, you know what, enough is enough. And he might be lucky. I mean, 40 years old to keep going in and out. I think Mr. Freeman hit it on the head. So far, your life has been a complete waste. Mr. Doubleday, what a name. I've never heard that name. And what a rock bottom this must be for him. I mean, you get the rock bottom, I'm sure, getting the judge to sentence you and then getting the habitual thing and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in my 50s by the time I get out of prison. And from when he went in, when he was in his late 30s. And he says he comes from a wealthy family and all that. And I didn't, right? Did we see anyone show up to support? Did anyone show up to the Zoom call? Did they send an attorney? There's nothing. And that could be because they love him. I don't, but truth is he's in today's day and age, it's, you're going nowhere good with that kind of addiction. It's kind of prison or the graveyard. It's tragic. Now, I don't know why. I really don't know why you need 5 board members why these hearings require 5 board members. They're not commutation hearings, they're parole hearings. I actually don't know. And I wish I did know, but so maybe I'll figure that out after this airs. Richard will tell me, or Cajun Survivor, but it's got to be. I don't think it's new legislation. Maybe it's very specific use cases that they're kind of saving up to the end of the year to. But it's also been a while since we've had this entire board all together. So it's nice to see them all together today. And thanks for hanging in there. And with that, I'll let you go.